The desert was silent in a way that only war can make it silent. The kind of stillness that feels unnatural, heavy, as if the air itself is holding its breath. Through the scope of a rifle, the world narrows. Distance collapses. A figure half a mile away becomes sharp, intimate, unavoidable. For the man behind the trigger, there is no cheering crowd, no music, no glory, only responsibility, training, and the weight of a decision that cannot be taken back. In the wars of the 21st century, one name would become inseparable from that moment of decision. Whispered with awe by fellow soldiers and debated fiercely by the public, Chris Kyle, America's deadliest sniper. Chris Kyle did not begin his life destined for legend. He was born in 1974 in Odessa, Texas, and raised in a culture that valued self-reliance, faith, and hard work. His childhood was filled with long days outdoors, hunting with his father, learning early how to respect firearms not as toys, but as tools with consequences. The lessons were simple and direct. Protect those who cannot protect themselves, stand by your word, and do your job well. Those values would later be tested in places far removed from the plains of Texas, under circumstances few could have imagined. Kyle dreamed of serving his country, but his path was not immediate. After high school, he tried his hand at professional rodeo riding, chasing an adrenaline-fueled life that mirrored the risk and intensity he would later face in combat. Injuries eventually ended the chapter, forcing him to reconsider his future. When he learned about the Navy SEALs, something clicked. The idea of pushing the human body and mind to their absolute limits, of serving in an elite brotherhood where failure was not an option, resonated deeply. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1999, unaware that global events would soon thrust him into history. SEAL training was brutal by design. It stripped men down to their core, exposing weaknesses physical and psychological alike. Many quit, some were forced out. Kyle endured. He discovered not only resilience, but a natural aptitude for marksmanship. Behind a rifle, he possessed an uncanny calm. His breathing slowed, his focus sharpened, and distractions faded. Instructors noticed. What began as skill soon became instinct. Kyle was assigned to SEAL Team 3 as a sniper, a role that would define his life. Then came September 11, 2001. Like millions of Americans, Kyle watched the attacks unfold in disbelief and fury. For him, the moment erased any lingering doubts about his purpose. War was no longer an abstract concept studied in training manuals. It was personal. The United States soon found itself engaged in prolonged conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Chris Kyle would deploy to Iraq for times between 2003 and 2009, each tour more dangerous than the last. Urban warfare in Iraq was a sniper's paradox. Long-range precision met claustrophobic streets, where enemies blended seamlessly into civilian populations. Every rooftop, every window, every alleyway could conceal a threat. Kyle's role was not about racking up kills, despite what headlines would later suggest. It was about overwatch. He protected Marines and soldiers moving through hostile neighborhoods, scanning endlessly for the subtle signs that meant danger and unnatural posture. A concealed weapon, a child being used as cover. The ethical burden was immense. A sniper's mistake could mean innocent lives lost, or fellow service members dead. His first confirmed kill came early in the war, a moment he would recount with stark honesty. A woman approached a group of Marines carrying a grenade. Kyle had seconds to decide. He took the shot. The explosion never came. The Marines lived. That moment, he said, haunted him. But it also cemented his understanding of the role he had accepted. In his mind, the choice was not between life and death in the abstract, but between saving American lives or allowing them to be taken. As the war dragged on, Kyle's reputation grew. Officially, Chris Kyle was credited with 160 confirmed kills, the highest number in U.S. military history. Unofficial estimates placed the number higher, but Kyle himself resisted fixation on statistics. Numbers, he argued, reduced complex human realities into scorekeeping. Each shot represented a situation where someone posed a lethal threat. Still, the figure would follow him for the rest of his life, fueling both admiration and controversy. To supporters, he was a hero who saved countless lives. To critics, he symbolized the brutal realities of modern warfare and the moral ambiguities of targeted killing. Combat took its toll in ways that were not immediately visible. Kyle returned home after each deployment carrying invisible wounds. Loud noises triggered reflexive reactions. Crowded places felt threatening. Sleep was elusive. Like many veterans, he struggled to transition from the hypervigilance of war to the rhythms of civilian life. His wife, Taya, bore witness to the distance that sometimes separated the man she loved from the man shaped by combat. Their marriage endured immense strain, marked by periods of emotional withdrawal and unresolved anger. In 2009, Kyle left the Navy. Officially, he cited the need to focus on his family. Unofficially, the cumulative weight of war had become unsustainable. Yet leaving the battlefield did not mean leaving the mission. Kyle was deeply troubled by the number of veterans he saw struggling with post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, and isolation. He believed that many were being forgotten by the country they had served. Determined to help, he dedicated himself to supporting fellow veterans, particularly through outdoor activities like shooting and hunting, which he believed provided structure, camaraderie, and a sense of purpose. In 2012, Kyle published his autobiography, American Sniper. The book offered an unfiltered account of his experiences, blending battlefield stories with reflections on patriotism, faith, and the cost of war. It became a bestseller, propelling Kyle into the national spotlight. Media appearances followed. So did criticism. Some questioned the accuracy of certain anecdotes. Others accused him of glorifying violence. Kyle responded bluntly, rarely softening his language. He was unapologetic about his service, unwavering in his belief that he had done his duty. The public debate surrounding Chris Kyle revealed a deeper national conflict about how America views its wars and those who fight them. He was neither the flawless hero of myth nor the caricature painted by his harshest critics. He was a soldier shaped by extraordinary circumstances, operating within a system that demanded lethal precision and emotional suppression. His story forced uncomfortable questions about responsibility, trauma, and the price paid by those sent to fight on behalf of others. On February 2, 2013, Chris Kyle's life ended not on a battlefield, but at a shooting range in Texas. He had gone there to help a fellow veteran struggling with mental health issues, believing that mentorship and shared experience could make a difference. Instead, he was killed, along with his friend Chad Littlefield. The news shocked the nation. Vigils were held, tributes poured in. His funeral procession stretched for miles, lined with Americans honoring a man whose life had become a symbol of sacrifice and service. In death, as in life, Chris Kyle remained a figure of contradiction and complexity. The film adaptation of American Sniper reignited debates, reaching global audiences and shaping public perceptions of modern warfare. For some, it humanized soldiers and highlighted the burdens they carry. For others, it simplified a conflict marked by political miscalculations and civilian suffering. Kyle's legacy became intertwined with broader conversations about patriotism, violence, and the responsibilities of a nation toward its veterans. Yet beyond the headlines, the arguments, and the box office numbers, there remains the image of a man lying prone on a rooftop in the Iraqi heat, heart pounding, finger steady, watching over others who would never know his name. There is the image of a father struggling to reconnect with his children, of a husband learning how to be present again, of a veteran determined to pull others back from the brink. These moments, quiet and unrecorded, define the human story behind the legend. Chris Kyle's life forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about war. It demands recognition that heroism and trauma often coexist, that saving lives can involve taking them, and that the consequences of combat do not end when the shooting stops. His story is not simply about confirmed kills or battlefield prowess. It is about the cost of standing in the space between danger and safety, about the moral weight carried by those tasked with lethal decisions, and about the obligation owed to them long after the applause fades. In the end, Chris Kyle was not just America's deadliest sniper. He was a mirror reflecting the realities of modern warfare and the enduring human cost borne by those who fight it.